It is another episode of Amjambo time. Thank you for all who help us to broadcast this unique program. I want to welcome our listeners in Maine and around the world. Here are our headline stories. Genocide Community Loan Fund wants to include new Mainers in the design of its loan program. We visited them in Brunswick. A conference about how to fight hate crime is brought to Maine by a New England Arab American organization. We have Maury Fox to tell us about it.
See the conference, and I think it's a great opportunity to take a bystander training from Prevention Action Change. Their organization is teaching people, how do you respond?
Sexual Assault Response Service of Southern Maine is looking to include new Mainers as they work with the school system on including sexual assault prevention education in the curriculum. On Memorial Day, Rwandans in Maine commemorated the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda in 1994. We will bring you more about this event. At Amjambo, Africa, we bring new Mainers together with all Mainers. This is a collaboration between Amjambo, Africa and WMPG of Southern Maine University, 90.9 FM. My name is Jacques Kuzimana and I'm your host. Thank you for tuning in. The news in details. Rwandans in Maine commemorated the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda with the unveiling of a memorial stone in Daring Oaks Park in Portland, followed by an afternoon presentation at Portland High School. The stone honors the victims of the genocide. Among commemoration speeches were those from a generation of young ones who were born years after the genocide. They have a message to share.
My name is Lamar and my parents are genocide against Tutsi survivors. Sometimes I wonder why my beloved country, Rwanda, went through genocide. Sometimes I wonder what our families did to deserve too much pain, hunger, thirsty, and death. And sometimes I wonder what our family life would be like having all our beloved ones we lost and make me say out loud, genocide never again. Sometimes I dream about a world without violence and discrimination. Sometimes I dream about a world where people can simply get along. Sometimes I dream about a world where children can grow without fear of their safety. Sometimes I dream about a world where the cause of death is only natural. Sometimes I dream about a world of peace and no more genocide.
My
name is Lael, and I'm the daughter of a genocide survivor. It hits me hard, but gives me hope. It hits me hard every time I remember that I never got a chance to see my grandmother, my aunts and uncles, and extended family members killed in the genocide against Tutsis. Hits me so hard, and I wonder why my family suffered to death, and to imagine their pain and all they went through is just a nightmare. Hits me hard every time I remember that our beloved ones never got a chance to see us grow up, graduate from college, or even get married and have our own families. It hits me way harder to imagine that my mom grew up without her mom to spoil her like she does for me and my siblings. But seeing her resilience gives me hope and strength to carry on my family's legacy. Let love predominate hatred. Let's fighting for peace and justice for all be everyone's goal, and let genocide never again be a real reality and not just a slogan.
Commemorated Rwanda. I'm here also to comfort you and to remind everyone how beautiful and strong you are. You've seen your people killing your own people, but you've also seen your people's resilience in stopping genocide, saving lives of many, including my dad. I'm here to say thank you to RPF Ingotanyi, your resilient sons and daughters who left everything behind to save my country and bring light and hope to genocide survivors. I'm here to say Ihorere Rwanda, ntibizongera kubaho ukundi.
born out of the spirit of helping marginalized communities who are often excluded from the classic banking system, Genesis Community Loan Fund is expanding its business to include new Mainers in their product development. Talking to Amjambo Time, Executive Director Lisa Fleming described how the Genesis Fund is contributing to find lasting solutions for providing housing for asylum seekers living in Brunswick, while encouraging new Mainers to benefit from the fund's loan program. Welcome, Lisa.
Organizations like Genesis and organizations around this in the state of Maine and also sort of across the country are really so important to, we continue to exist and are a part of the financial system, are a part of, helping individuals and people with small businesses get access to resources.
Those who have good ideas who want to start a business. So can you tell them, if you come to us, we can help you with this and this and this? Mm-hmm. Those who have ideas or those who have started, who want to expand, can you talk to them from the executive side?
Yeah, I mean, we're very fortunate for people who want to start businesses. We're very fortunate to have a peer organization, just like the Genesis Fund, but very focused on providing business counseling in coastal enterprises, which is also based in Brunswick. And they have business counselors, and they provide financing specifically for people who are wanting to start or expand small businesses. What I can speak to is for people that see that they want to buy property, own property, manage it, to serve as a community resource. So to create affordable rental housing or to create a childcare space. I would encourage people to talk with us. We're actually going to host an information session on June 5th at Gateway Community Services for people and organizations in the immigrant community that have this interest in learning about owning property. To provide housing. So how do you select a property? What are the steps in the process of considering that? What are the things that you have to kind of look ahead to consider when you become an owner of how you're going to maintain and manage a rental property? And then sort of talking about the resources and the financing. And we're going to have 3 small scale property owners join us to talk about their own experiences. 2 from the immigrant community, one who has actually received a fee-based loan from Genesis, and another who's in the process of financing a property with the Genesis Fund. Just about the lessons that they learned in the process of doing that, and the way that they were able to both get support from Genesis, but also sort of access other resources. So we hope that this might be just a first session of many that we can kind of offer both to market our work and also to sort of hear more about just as we were talking about earlier, for us to kind of listen to hear are there ways that we can be reducing the barriers to our financing that would be responsive to need, and that would help people and organizations do this kind of work successfully.
So when you say property, is it like 2 units? How do you count the?
We don't finance personal residences, so we don't provide home mortgage loans. So what we're talking about when we say property would be something that would be an investment property, a rental property beyond a single residence. That's right, exactly. Now that could be a duplex. It could be 2, 4, 6 units, because what we want to support support both individuals and organizations that want to own and sort of develop property, but also ultimately we want renters, we want the larger community to benefit from that. And so we're interested in making sure that the housing that's created or the service that's provided sort of as a result of that purchase has community benefit.
Is it good or a good deal to own a duplex? Or
it's a small business, it's a way to generate income, it's a way to build wealth too. You know, the property that you buy today, over time, you may finance it, but over time you pay down that financing and it also, ideally appreciates in value. And, it is a way to build wealth. And we see it also, in addition to that, for the property owner, is it can be a way to provide housing or provide a service that has benefit to the community. It's an opportunity to build wealth through an asset, and what we want to do in sort of providing guidance is make sure that we're setting people up to sort of be successful and really be able to maintain it as an asset over time.
You are taking part in the efforts to make Brunswick welcome, as I understand. Absolutely. We are, and there are many partners that are working to do that as well, but we're so pleased to be able to sort of be a partner, bring our resources to that effort as well, and support the development of that housing there. A Place Without Hate Forum on Hate Crime in Maine, a conference by New England Arab American organizations where we share important tips geared to different stakeholders in Maine, and it will take place on June 2nd. In our show, we have Maury Fox to tell us more about its objectives. Welcome, Maury.
One part of it is education. So, for example, we're planning a conference on June 2nd, which is a forum on hate crime in Maine. So one piece is education. That includes like bystander trainings and helping everyone to understand ways in which they can help. And then another piece is developing, in this 18-month grant period, developing what are the resources victims of hate crime need in Maine, and what are the barriers to not only getting help, but reporting hate crimes.
Yeah. So now it has been 4 months, right? So what is the state of those crimes, the violence?
Yes,
Yeah.
Sure,
Please
yeah.
tell me.
So I'm in touch with various like ethnic-based nonprofits and other nonprofits, and learning from discussion with community providers what's going on in their communities. So the consensus is that on the whole, Maine, just like other states, people choose not to report hate crimes for so many reasons, and that people are dealing with this on the ground in creative ways. So, for example, Asian United organization, they have sort of like a hotline that just sort of developed informally, where, if someone is in the supermarket and someone is saying things that are hate speech to them, that they can call and have someone help escort them to their car, for example. So people have created systems of safety within communities in creative ways, because many times if you ask someone if they want to report something, they don't. So I think, to answer your question, so far what we're hearing from all communities is that hate speech and hate crimes are common, but getting them to the court level to be prosecuted is not common. And that's why we're inviting Dr. Frank Pizzella to come as our keynote speaker to the conference, because we're hoping to bring together the district attorneys and law enforcement so that they can get together to make sure there's some best practices in place, so that when someone does report a hate crime, that it is prosecuted as a criminal case and not a civil case. So it's prosecuted at a higher level. Well, we're really excited about the conference coming up on June 2nd at USM. It is a free conference, and you can register for it online. And I think it's a great opportunity to take a bystander training from Prevention Action Change. Their organization is teaching people, how do you respond when you see something in a supermarket or you see someone using hate speech? And we have a panel of community leaders, activists who will be there, and people can have questions answered and also hopefully learn more about resources and reporting in general.
We also have important tips. They help us to navigate life in Maine. Make sure you are eligible to seek asylum in Canada before appearing at the border. If you appear and do not qualify, you will be returned to the U.S. and will never be able to make an asylum claim in Canada again. Detention and deportation on the U.S. side are possible. Check the June Amjambo Africa newspaper for more information. Many people have trouble making ends meet. Applying for benefits can be hard to do alone. If you need help, contact the Peer Workforce Navigator Project, which offers help in many languages, or call Maine Equal Justice. Are you a new Mainer who wants to start business? Help is available. Contact the Indus Fund through Seaport Credit Union or Coastal Enterprise Institute. Both have special programs tailored to the needs of immigrant entrepreneurs. Children learn and develop in different ways and at different rates. Some children experience developmental delays because of ADHD. Scientists say that genetics are involved in ADHD. These children can be helped to reach their potential with treatment. Early diagnosis helps the children. Talk to your child's teacher or your doctor if you believe your child might be suffering from ADHD, and you can learn more about this disease in June's Amjambo Africa newspaper. Sexual Assault Response Service of Southern Maine is working with the school system in Portland on including sexual assault prevention education in the curriculum. Executive Director Erin Flood would like to serve the new Maine community better by recruiting staff from the community who can help strategize how to reach out to immigrant community. Let's listen to Erin Flood.
So when somebody's coming to us from Africa, Italy, Mexico, and they've had those traumatic experiences prior to, we then work around it the way we do with somebody who comes to us as an adult and they're finally able to deal with what happened as a child, with it, whether incest or sexual abuse as a child. So we often we're survivor focused in that we want to know what it is you're hoping for. So for some it's relief, like I can't sleep. Some self-diagnose with PTSD, but I can't sleep. I'm always anxious. I can't keep a job. My relationships don't work out. So working to target those, first identify what the presenting problems are that may be related to that, because we know that with any kind of sexual trauma and I think physical violence to some degree as well, the long-term effects are, you have your immediate, the physical things, bruising, pain, but it's the bigger psychological long-term effects that still present 20, years out. And then the chronic things that present within the lifetime historically, like being a low wage earner, having problems at work, difficult relationships, multiple marriages, engaging in risky behaviors, higher instances of alcoholism. So usually and then I think the bigger picture, we're connected, the sexual assault service centers of Maine, there's about 7 or 8, are all connected through a coalition. And within the umbrella of that coalition, which is where like our funding comes through that, they do a lot of the legislative lobbying type work. So my understanding would be as well that, especially like with new Mainers, when you're seeing an influx of folks coming in that have experienced similar traumas due to where they're coming from, acts of war, again, creating legislation, that piece to drive, how do we address it as a nation? How do we address the communities here as well? So I think that then there's this concerted effort amongst the coalition members to identify gaps in the big picture of like, we're seeing, so many Sudanese coming. Well, it's everyone's responsibility to be aware of what's happening in Sudan and read the news so that they can be equipped when an influx of new Mainers come in. And one of the things when I was interviewing for the job, that was something that I spoke about, is keeping my eye on the pulse of the world, recognizing that, depending on the president, we should be getting folks here for their own safety, and how do we welcome them, and how do we receive them in all the services they need, medical services, mental health assistance, and then this very specific area of sexual violence, which impacts, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but of women and children coming in. I think the estimate is really high that many of them have been sexually violated or experience sexual violence.
So how do you work with other entities like police, like justice? How do you cooperate?
Well, we have really good relationships within our catchment areas. So we're Cumberland, York County, Portland. I was going to say Portland. And we have established procedures. So if somebody calls in and it's an immediate crisis, something that just happened, we walk the survivor through the process of what it takes to file a police report. They can have somebody from here accompany them to make that an easier process, or at least a more comfortable process. Through there, we walk them to what the legal ramifications are, like what happens if you choose to report, if you go get the exam done, what happens to the materials collected during the exam, what does a forensic nurse do? So we walk them through all of that. And then each step of the way, we're a participant in the process. And then most recently, this has been really interesting for me, I've been participating in some, not monthly, but regular meetings with the new DA, Satoris, who is pushing through a lot of work and some legislation around like sexual assault, sexual violence, how our police. I was really curious about, there's a backlog of rape kits, and I asked, who do they belong to? Do they belong mostly to people of color? Because historically, those are the folks that nobody cares if they get, their justice. But we are always looking to improve. So when I came on board in March, I learned that we have some room for improvement on both sides in terms of understanding the jobs that we're all trying to do.
So are you working, for example, to include different languages, communication lines for people who can be clients, people who can call in?
We're working on it. So when I arrived, I learned that we use translators and interpreters. One of the goals of having that person in place was that they would speak one of the predominant languages, understanding, of course, the odds that they speak every language spoken would be ridiculous. And then the goal to increase funding so that we can have representation in the language, but looking we just finished our language access policy. Our language access policy, so that the staff can be guided through, like, this is what to do if somebody shows up and you don't speak the language. It's still, there's not a, no, I don't speak your language, goodbye. Like, this is the process that we take to make sure that that client gets the assistance that they need with the least amount of barrier or wait time. Lots of room to, I think, grow and improve, but we're in a good direction. We're taking good steps.
Umugambi w'Imana kuri we ntawuzi, wenda aza guhoza amarira yose warize, azana ibisubizo by'ibibazo uruhuri. Ntacyo nasanze kiruta kuba umubyeyi, ntugamuruzwe n'ibihe bibi umuhawemo.
The beauty melody you're listening to is a new release from Clarisse Karasira. It is called Omwana, That Kid. We thank her, and the drums are from Yves Karubu. Thank you for allowing us to enjoy your talents and share them with the world. We have come to the end of today's Amjambo time. Thank you for tuning in. Please keep an eye on WMPG and the Amjambo Africa website for a podcast of this show and more news we are covering in Maine. And remember, Amjambo time alternates with our newest show, Wiriwe Maine, on air in Kinyarwanda and Kirundi on alternate Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and available by podcast at amjamboafrica.com. And stay tuned for news about Bonjour Maine, our newest podcast, out soon to be broadcast entirely in French. Amjambo Time is brought to you by Jacques Kuziman. Have a great day.
Mureka kure, wenda wasanga azava mukomeye. Umugambi w'Imana kuri we ntawuzi, wenda aza guhoza amarira yose warize, azana ibisubizo by'ibibazo uruhuri. Ntacyo nasanze kiruta kuba umubyeyi, ntugamuruzwe n'ibihe bibi umuhawemo. Uwo mwana murecyaba izuba, mureka tete, mureka seke, murecya kure. Uwo mwana murecyabona izuba, mureka tete, mureka seke, mureka kure.